The nationwide protest has lost steam in some parts of the country after it turned violent in Kano, Borno, Yobe, Gombe, and Katsina states. On the show today, we will count the cost of a civil disobedience that nearly threatened national security. Good evening to you all in Nigeria and wherever you're watching us around the world. This is TVC News Politics on Sunday. I am Femi Akonde.
My dear Nigerians, especially our youths, I have heard you loud and clear. I understand the pain and the frustration that drive this protest, and I want to assure you that our government is committed to listening and addressing the concerns of our citizens. But we must not let violence and destruction tear our nation apart. We must work together to build a brighter future where every Nigerian can live with dignity and prosperity.
That's President Bola Tinubu's passionate appeal to Nigerians and protesters to stay off the street and open their doors for dialogue. That was earlier today during a statewide broadcast. Well, joining me to analyze President Bola Tinubu's speech and give some perspectives is a former media aide to the former President Goodluck Jonathan, a public affairs analyst and author, Reno Omokri. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you listened to the president's speech. Would you say it was enough to placate protesters and persuade them to dialogue?
I think it was enough, and if you consider the antecedents to that speech, if you look at the campaigns, during the campaigns, all major presidential candidates except Rabi Musa Kwankwaso said they were going to remove subsidy. In fact, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, on the 1st of January 2023, he said, and I quote, "I will remove fuel subsidy immediately on day one." So what has the president done that these people who are promoting this protest would not have done if they were in power? All parties, the PDP, my party, Labour Party, and then the party in power, we all said we were going to remove fuel subsidy. And if you go to Harvard Business School, they teach you a problem-solving technique. It's called PRS, Problem Reaction Solution. Now, if you look at that, the problem was that we had this unsustainable fuel subsidy. And the Buhari administration was sustaining it by debt. It got to a point whereby we were spending 97% of our income. Look at that, 97% of our income servicing our debts, not paying off our debts, servicing our debts. So obviously it was unsustainable. Now this had to go. Yeah, you had the reaction. People said, okay, well, it's brought hardship. And what did the president do? He brought out a series of palliatives, a series of policies that were cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. We had 1 million units of compressed natural gas vehicles and processing centers all over the country. Now, the thing about CNG is that CNG for us is better than fuel because we control CNG. We don't have to import it. You know, we don't have the refining capacity to refine our fuel. But with CNG, we have enough, more than enough. And then he also introduced policies whereby he gave almost 1 million Nigerians grants, nano entrepreneurs. So obviously 600,000 have gotten it. We got 400,000 more to get it. And then if you look at what he's done, obviously it's not going to be easy to just increase the minimum wage unilaterally. You have to go through processes. You have to negotiate with labor. You got to pass a bill at the National Assembly. And in that time when he was waiting for the bill to be passed, what happened? They gave a wage support of 35,000 naira to every federal government employee, which stopped in February. So I think enough had been done. So it's very unfair for people like Peter Obi and others to begin to say that the president has done something wrong and to encourage people to protest. Why? There is no basis for this protest.
Well, but you know, the president also understands that some of these necessary economic reforms have caused significant hardship to a section of the population, and he's asking for more time to allow these reforms be fully implemented before Nigerians can feel the impact. But one thing Nigerians say they do not have is that time. How much longer can they wait?
Well, that's the thing, you know, you have to create time for your country to grow, because no country is going to grow and move from third world to first world without a period of hardship like this, whereby you have to make sacrifices. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. If you look at Nigeria's history, we had our fastest economic growth between 1969 and 1970. And why was that? It was because we were not importing. The people who dominated the import trade had left Nigeria, had gone to the rebel republic of Biafra. And so we were forced as a country to begin to rely on the Ikeja, Igomu, the Oride, the Oshodi axis of manufacturing bases. And then what happened? 1969, our economy grew by 24.20%. If you're watching me at home, I encourage you to please fact check me. 1970, our economy grew by 25.01, our GDP. That is the highest GDP growth that Nigeria has ever had. Now, immediately after the war ended and then massive importation began, our economy dropped. And so we've been going through that cycle. So now, if you look at what's happened now with this president removing fuel subsidy, you saw that for the first quarter of 2024, this year, we had a trade surplus of 6.52 trillion. Now, that means that we are now exporting more than we were importing. So this is the first time that we are having that since that period I just told you about, the Civil War. So what is happening in Nigeria right now is good. We're seeing that, okay, if you look at the stock exchange, for instance, for the first time, Nigeria passed 100,000 all-share index, which is very good. It's never happened before. And if you look at our foreign reserve, even though we have paid off our debts to these foreign companies, especially the foreign airlines, we have a foreign reserve of about $34.5 billion. So obviously, these economic policies, they are working. Now, it's going to take some time for them to trickle down to the masses, but they are working.
Well, you know, President Bola Tinubu's broadcast was like a State of the Nation address where he also talked about, you know, the processes where we are, steps being taken to get to that desired destination. But it appears along the line, there isn't enough communication. Maybe Nigerians are not hearing enough from the president to be able to give him that, or to be able to show that level of understanding that the government requires.
I disagree. I completely disagree. It's not that there's not enough communication. The president has excellent communicators, especially the Minister of Information. First and foremost, we have a Minister of Information right now, unlike Lai Mohammed, that has integrity. So when he speaks, people believe him. And he has been speaking, especially throughout this protest period. You know, he's been very visible. The reason why we have this disconnect is because we have people who are disgruntled from the last presidential elections. And because of that, daily, they are feeding the Nigerian people with propaganda. I just give you an example of Peter Obi, a man who said that on day one, he was going to remove fuel subsidy. And then right now, he's turned around, beginning to encourage Nigerians to protest. 5 days ago, he was in Abia State. While he was in Abia State, he was encouraging Nigerians to protest. But look at what happened. When we had the protest, we had protests in Kano, we had protests in Lagos. Lagos pays above minimum wage. Since February, they've been paying 70,000 naira. They don't owe salaries. Kano pays minimum wage. Kano doesn't owe salaries. Since February, Kano, in addition to the minimum wage, has been paying 20,000 wage support to their workers. How come, if you're saying that this protest is about hardship, how come there was protest in Kano, there were protests in Lagos, but in that Abia, where Peter Obi gave that interview encouraging Nigerians to protest, there was no protest there. Yes, Abia owes workers, I think, as much as 13 months salary, if I'm not mistaken. Abia does not pay those workers even the minimum wage. Right. So they are not paying minimum wage, and they are owing workers. Okay, you know, so you can see that.
You know, President Bola Tinubu also said, sorry to cut in, President Bola Tinubu has also said that his government will not stand idly and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Now, it does seem the president also suspects there's a political interest driving some of these protests we've seen on the streets.
I mean, it's obvious that there's a political interest driving them. Look at Kano. Look at the video. Almajiris, young people in Kano, carrying and waving Russian flags. Where would an Almajiri get a Russian flag? Obviously, someone in the background has given them a Russian flag. An Almajiri, in fact, an Almajiri does not even know who President Vladimir Putin is, but they were carrying pictures of President Vladimir Putin.
So do you suspect external interference? Do you suspect external interference?
External interference. I think that it is people in Nigeria who are disgruntled and unhappy from the 2023 election. One thing that we get that was very good, in the interview that Peter Obi gave, I think 2 days ago, when he was speaking to the press, he said, President Tinubu is the man we elected he has the people's mandate. I think it was a Freudian slip on his part, because that's the first time that he's admitted that President Tinubu was democratically elected. This is a man who has been saying, and his own supporters have also been going around with this conspiracy theory, saying that he was the real winner of the election and he lost the election because it was stolen from him. Finally, from his own mouth, he said that President Tinubu was validly elected. But another thing I want to say here, a lot of people, I think about something like 17, I may be wrong, I may be off by 1 or 2 numbers, 17 people died during this protest. Immediately it was announced that 17 people died. Peter Obi came out and gave a condolence. But what happened? 6 days ago in Imo State, 4 policemen were killed by unknown gunmen. The next day, on Monday, Simon Ekpa of IPOB claimed responsibility for the killing for IPOB. Till today, Peter Obi has not condemned IPOB and has not given condolences of those policemen killed in Imo. Now, yesterday, 7 traditional rulers were killed in Imo. Peter Obi has not said anything. So you have this region, the Southeast region, experiencing severe killings, experiencing a turmoil. Peter Obi never speaks about it. But if anything happens in Kano, in Lagos, in Ibadan, Peter Obi will be the first person to rush and speak. Look at what he did in Landmark when Lagos lawfully demolished the Landmark Beach Resort. He came out, attacked Lagos, talked about ethnic baiting. But when there were demolitions of 1,700 homes in Anambra State, he kept short. So people like Peter Obi and others around him are the ones fueling this disconnect.
All right, then, just one more question before I let you go. You know, people have also been talking about the way the protest was carried out. It appears some parts of the country went silent during the protest, and in some parts, you know, the streets were really, really busy. Of course, in the federal capital, in Lagos, and some parts of the country. Why do you think, what's your own feeling about, you know, the way it was organized and people's response to it? It appears as if it resonated properly in one part, and in another part, people were not just interested.
Let me tell you this, it was all planned. None of the promoters and organizers of this protest were from northern Nigeria, were Arewa, not one. All of the promoters were either from southern Nigeria or the Middle Belt, all of them. And then the last major promotion for this protest was done in Abia State, like I told you, 5 days ago, when Peter Obi stood shoulder to shoulder with the governor of Abia State, Alex Odi, and was encouraging people to protest. Yet, there were no protests in that state, Abia State. There were no protests in Peter Obi's state, Anambra State. Now, here's the thing. This is a man who was caught on camera, who was caught on audio. The audio was leaked. He was promising to wage religious war. Now, if a man like that, who is so sectional and biased, coming out and then promoting a protest, and yet in his own catchment area, this protest did not happen, but in other places it happened, it means that this man was gaslighting the country, trying to bring about division. And like I told you, it all goes back to people who were disgruntled from the 2023 presidential elections. All right, then. It's all politics, and that's what you say. Well, thank you so much, Reno Omokri, for your time on the program. I will take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation in the studio. Don't go away.